Hello everyone, my name is Rex Buckles, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the mathematician and computer scientist Alan Turing, and I'm specifically going to be covering various fictitious portrayals of him and how they have affected his popular perceptions and how they have been affected by it. So to start off, I'm going to give a brief synopsis of one of the reasons that Alan Turing is quite well known to this day. And this is his research on artificial intelligence, or AI. Specifically, I would like to highlight this diagram, which is of the Turing test. The Turing test is the most widely and prominently used test to determine whether or not an artificial intelligence is indeed artificial. It revolves around a known spectator who is talking to a known human and a potential artificial intelligence. The spectator in his conversations will compare responses and determine whether or not the potential artificial intelligence is indeed artificial. Turing also went on to state that an AI could be said to be fully sentient if it could 100% of the time, over long periods of time, convince a human that it was also a human. However, despite Turing's current prominence and well-known stature for his work, this has not always been the case. In his lifetime, he was alienated from society due to his homosexuality. As we can see with this newspaper article here, he was put on probation. This is a fancy term of saying he was basically fired. He was put on a probation to have organotherapic treatment. What is organotherapic treatment, you may be wondering? This is a sugar-coated way of saying that Alan Turing was chemically castrated. And the combination of societal alienation with his chemical castration led Turing to ultimately commit suicide by eating a cyanide-laced apple. And this stayed the same. Society didn't really approve of or appreciate Turing much until a bit later, when Andrew Hodges published his biography of Turing's life called Alan Turing: The Enigma. Even to this day, this is considered the most complete and accurate depiction of Turing, his life, and his accomplishments. And this ended up sparking many other fictitious works and other artistic portrayals of Turing's life, which leads to my core research question, where I seek to ascertain how these portrayals have shaped the view of Turing and been shaped by it, and I'm going to be using the mediums of film, fiction, and music. And so, just to make sure everything is as clear as possible, I'm going to be pointing you to a timeline where we can see key markers. Especially, I have blackened Turing's death, so you can see what happened before and after. Some of the key markers include the decriminalization of homosexuality in Britain, as Turing was a British mathematician, alongside when the AIDS epidemic happened, because that marks a point of empathy for those with that sexual orientation, as well as I also have highlighted when Andrew Hodges' book was published, Alan Turing, alongside when the modern PC was established, because this can shed light into the strong utilization of Turing's theories and how they were implemented in PCs a bit later than his life. So now that we have gone over this overview through the timeline, I'm going to move into the artistic portrayals which I will be covering. The first one I'm going to be talking about is The Imitation Game, a widely popular film which many of you, I imagine, will have seen regarding Turing and his life, and is a supposed film adaptation of Andrew Hodges' biography. I will also be covering Machines Like Me, written by Ian McEwan, which is a fictitious world that is set where Turing did not commit suicide. And lastly, at the end, I will be covering Breaking the Code by This Human Condition, a song about Turing and his life. So to kick us off with The Imitation Game, this film is presented as factual. It is said to be a historical film and was said to be a film adaptation of Andrew Hodges' book. However, this film did receive criticism because many of its points were counterfactual. Specifically, Andrew Hodges, the original publisher of the biography, stated that this film severely downplayed Turing's homosexuality by ramping up his straight relationship as more than it ever was. And the film also heavily romanticized Turing's gay relationship. For example, they had Turing name a machine after his first lover, which Turing never did. And they also added other non-true details, such as stating that a spy was kept secret because Turing did not wish to reveal his gayness. However, according to Andrews Hodges, Turing later in his life became increasingly insistent on his identity and would never have done such a thing as concealing a spy to keep his homosexuality a secret. Regarding the inaccuracies in this movie, screenwriter Graham Moore stated that because it is art, it should not be fact-checked, just as you do not fact-check Monet's water lilies. This statement demonstrates that the screenwriter did not have a full care as to perfectly represent Alan Turing's life, and instead viewed it more so as art. What we can see from the fact that Turing's homosexuality was downplayed, is since this was a widely popular movie, it did have societal implications, and popular perception would have changed as a result of it, with most people believing this to be true. And the movie did mostly positively portray Turing and would provide positive outlook. However, it would also portray him in a way that would mislead others into thinking things about Turing's identity which were untrue. Moving on to my next source, which is a more blatantly fictitious approach to Turing's life, we have Ian McEwan's Machines Like Me. As I stated before, this novel is set in a world where Turing did not commit suicide, and as such, technology has advanced rapidly. Although the book is set in 1982, there is technological advancement in the book equivalent today, with one key addition: fully sentient artificial intelligence. And this book revolves around a love triangle with a man, his artificial intelligence, and a girl with whom they are both interested. In this book, the robot actually ends up having more morality and acting with more compassion with than the man, which scholar Tariq Golku coined as dehumanizing humans and humanizing robots. This shows that in addition to accepting Turing's scientific prominence by stating that the world was highly advanced, they also fully embraced his ingenuity, not just what he accomplished, by stating that he would have accomplished so much more. But with this statement about humanizing robots and dehumanizing humans, this shows an acceptance for Turing's ideas regarding sentience, as Ian McEwan in this book is embracing Turing's idea that a robot really can become sentient and can become moral in the same way. However, through these depictions, we still haven't seen an acceptance for Turing's life and his identity. And for this last point, I would like to go to Breaking the Code, a song by the band This Human Condition. And I'd specifically like to point out a couple of lyrics. In this first verse I have here, we can see that This Human Condition states that there is no justice in what happened to Alan Turing. With this statement, we don't just see a willingness to overlook his homosexuality and instead focus on the science, like is seen in The Imitation Game, but a full outlook towards Turing life and saying, not only do we see what happened and we're okay with it, but we actually fully go and oppose what ultimately happened with no justice. But it goes a step further than just looking at it as injustice and fully embraces him as a person by embracing his love with the next lyric where we can see that they are breaking the code of love. And this demonstrates how they are perceiving Turing and willing to look into his identity specifically and not just overlook it. And through this, we can see this evolution of perception from being completely alienated from society to having his scientific work embraced, but his identity not so much, and his philosophical ideals not so much, and then having his more philosophical statements embraced as well, to finally having him as a person become accepted. And to fully encapsulate these fictitious portrayals and how they portray Turing, I'm going to use this quote from from a paper published to the American Mathematical Society, which states that Turing in these fictitious books is viewed like a deity having mythological significance. And this shows an even step further in Turing's perception to being kind of immortalized with these strong ideals. I'd also like to point out that he has been officially added to the curriculum in Britain education, alongside he is on their 50-pound note. So he has become certainly beloved. For future research, many other prominent scientists, such as Albert Einstein, have personal lives and identities which are commonly overlooked and can be useful in ascertaining their impact and importance as a whole. And I believe it's always important to understand who people are as a person. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Here are my slides, and questions will be saved to the end.